So why do we use JSON? Well, we use JSON to transfer data. So for example, if we have here two different systems and they need to communicate, most of the time they will use JSON to do that. So for example, this system here may use a programming language or may have some data and it is incompatible with this other system. So they will transform any data that they have in JSON, send over a message, and the other system that's receiving this will parse this JSON, will transform it in something else that they can process. So this is why we use JSON to transfer data. Using a format, as I've shown you before, would be very hard to understand by a machine. We humans can understand it, but a machine would have difficulties understanding that. So we need to find a way to structure the data that we're sending. So this is why we're talking about the JSON format. This is a structured format that has a set of rules. Essentially, JSON is a simple key value format. So key value simply means something like first name equals John. First name is the key and John is the value. This is pretty simple. Now, in JSON, we don't use the equal sign, we use a column. So again, first name is the key, John is the value. Now, what happens with JSON is that we put everything between quotes, otherwise it is not valid. So you'll see here, both the key and the value are now between quotes. To make it even more valid JSON, we would also add this curly brackets, and essentially this will create an object that has only one property. So this object will have the property first name and the value would be John. So quite easy to understand. Most of the time we don't have just one property, and if we add an additional property, we will put a comma after the line above. So you will see here this comma. I marked it in red so that you can easily see it. And below I have added another property. The name of the property is age and the value is 22. Now, as you can notice, 22 is not between quotes. And the reason for that is 22 is a number. So that's quite an important difference. Now, John here, we call it a string. It's simply a text. But 22 has a significance. It is a number and it can also be understood as a number. The same goes for a Boolean value. You see here I've added a new line and also added a comma here. And this one false is a Boolean value. So Boolean value can be true or false. So we don't put numbers in quotes, we don't put Boolean values in quotes. Now the beauty of JSON is that it is both readable by humans as well as by computers. So that's a big advantage. In terms of commas, make sure you don't add a comma here on the last line, because if there's nothing following after this, this will be invalid JSON. Now, the term invalid JSON is very important. If you don't write valid JSON, the other party will not be able to understand you. For example, if you use single quotes instead of double quotes, this will be invalid JSON. If you don't put all the commas where they should be, this will create invalid JSON, and so on. Now, you may also encounter something like these square brackets here. And these square brackets indicate a list, or how it is often called, an array. It means simply a list of values. In this case, it is a list of strings. Netflix is a string, and then this is comma separated. You will see here the comma, and there comes the next value. This can be numbers, this can be objects. So you can store many things in there. You may encounter objects represented by a curly bracket, or you may encounter list represented by brackets. So this is essentially, in a nutshell, the JSON format. So now let's recap a bit, because I really want to make sure that you understand this. And it is super important because you will be working with JSON quite a lot, and any mistakes or misunderstandings that you have about JSON will impact the way you work with APIs. So again, first name, this is what we call a key. Age is a key, is married is a key, hobbies, they're all keys. On the other side, we have separated by a column values like John. John is a string. On the next line, it's very important that we don't forget this. Add a comma. Age, 22. This is another value, which is a number. False is a Boolean. and what we have here below, Netflix, mountain biking, they are strings in an array. So we have here an array of strings. And of course, everything is encapsulated in an object. You see here at the beginning and at the end, this indicates an object. Now, let's see if you really understood this and take a look at another example. What is this here? Now, it's important that you look from the beginning. What is the first sign that you're seeing here? Well, you're seeing a bracket. So a bracket here and a bracket here indicate an array. So we have an array, we have a list of something. And then we're looking, what is the first thing that we're seeing here? And of course, this will be an object. So these here are objects. They are separated here by a comma, which is again very important. So essentially, we have here an array of objects. So by using JSON, we can send data to an API, but you can also retrieve data and use that in various ways. So it is very important that the JSON that we send is valid, otherwise we will not be able to understand it, or the other party will not be able to understand it.